here, and then I'm going to switch it right off.
Okay. Okay, I just consented to being live streamed. I had to touch a button anyway. Okay.
Okay, and now I'm also going to do a start a recording.
Perfect. I'm glad we can still have a recording.
Yeah, well, let me find here. Why is it not giving me the recording thing? Record to cloud. There we go. Okay, so now I've got to bring up, hang on here. I've got a
Sure.
lot of things to do here. I want to make sure it's broadcasting before I tell everybody.
Sure.
I want to make sure it's broadcasting before I tell everybody. See, there's the echo I have. So I don't want, I always have to check myself. Good afternoon, everyone, from Dunrobin Ranch in Willow, Montana, on the first full day of summer. Yesterday was summer solstice, and I have our wonderful friend, naturalist Hobie Hare here. He is transmitting via Zoom from his own backyard with a lovely green background. Good afternoon, Hobie.
Hi, Suzanne. How are you? And how's everybody else doing out there?
Well, I'm hopeful everybody has as lovely weather as we are having in Western Montana today. Sunny, but still cool. It's really just a lovely, lovely day. And I wanted to share a map here explaining a little bit about summer solstice and how it impacts the sunset. If you look at this map, you can see that the darker the colors here, well, actually it's going from the bottom here at orange through light orange, yellow, green, blue, deep blue, pink, and purple, all the way up to brown. The longer the daylight, the closer you get to the equator, the more equal the day is to night, and the farther you get up north, the more unequal it is. And you can see from this map that they're trying to capture this influence on a flat map from a circular perspective. The Earth, of course, is not flat, but the map is. So that's why we have these kind of rays coming down. So you can see that a place like Denver, Colorado is in the orange. They are a good half hour earlier sunset than we get here in Montana. And we're right on the edge between this yellow and green, which means our sunset will be closer to 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And that's just a wonderful, lovely thing to enjoy. And of course, the farther north you get, the longer the days are. And I just want to tell a little story. I lived in Alaska for a long time, and for about 6 weeks one summer, I spent up here in this brown zone where there was 24-hour sunlight. And we did a field project, and I have to say that it's hard to live in a place where you've got 24-hour sun. The length of our days kind of crept. We ended up eating and sleeping on about a 28-hour day rather than a 24-hour day, because it just didn't make any sense as to what time you went to bed, etc. So as the days went on, your days got longer and longer and longer. It was very interesting. So anyway, I don't know where other people are located in the United States. I know we have some people down in Texas, and depending upon which part of the state there you are, you could be noticing a very distinct difference or not. It's a big state, a lot of coverage, but I thought this was a really interesting map. And I know some of our viewers watched Bridget and me last night drinking a wine, watching the sunset. Did you watch the sunset last night, Hobie, on the longest day?
I did not. I was asleep by 9 for a change. So, but tonight, that's my ambition.
Yeah, these long days are just wonderful for evening activities. So I'm going to bring down this photo, and I wanted to share one more sunset photo that everybody will recognize. And that's a photo that was taken nearly on the solstice by John Ashley of Harriet sitting on her nest with the sun directly behind her. What a gorgeous photo. What a gorgeous sunset photo.
You know, I think if Dunroven ever had a flag, this should be the picture on the flag.
I agree. Yeah, it's really indicative of our beautiful nest and our love of that bird. She's been wonderful. So you've been doing some traveling and some guiding, have you not, Hobie? And did you not go down to the redwood areas?
Yes, Eric and I traveled there in early May for about 10 days, gone from Missoula altogether. And we visited friends in Boise on the way, went to Ashland, Oregon, and then went to Florence, Oregon on the way back. We had 4 magical nights camping at a beautiful place called Prairie Creek Redwood State Park. Actually, 3 nights there, 1 night in Crescent City. But it's kind of a rough road, so it's not built for RVs and stuff like that. But camping less than 500 yards from the ocean, you'd hear the roar of the surf at night. You go inland 500 yards and the redwood trees would just start to just dominate the forest right there. And it was just so much fun the whole time just to be surrounded by these old growth forests. Some of them were not. And what was really mesmerizing to me was to be in the presence of beings that could live up to 3,000 years, and they could be 300 feet tall. And it all starts with a seed that's probably no bigger than, say, an apple seed. And to imagine that this area covered by redwoods used to be about 2 million square acres, meaning about the size of Yellowstone today, if you stretch it all out. But now they're down to 5% of their habitat. But there's something really powerful about being with something, I think, older, and I would like to think wiser than I am. Just these sentient beings that somehow communicate with each other, can resist drought, can resist wildfire. At the same time, they depend on wildfire in cases to spread their seeds around. And it was just a really rejuvenating time to be there.
Perfectly adapted to their environment.
Yes.
And you know, the more that we learn that how trees communicate with one another, it's really bringing plants into a much more complex situation than we have thought them to be for a long time. And
go ahead.
Yeah, I just, after reading Braiding Sweetgrass, I've become much more aware of trees and plants, and their lives are probably just as rich as ours are. It's you know, it's a grander part of the ecosystem that has been ignored in many, many ways, not thought of as part of us, that we're not part of them. But as we look at the world more carefully, we see that we're just a small part of it.
Yes, and I was thinking too earlier today about our state flower, the bitterroot. and of course the Bitterroot River, Bitterroot Valley, Bitterroot Mountain Range, and all sorts of names attached to that. But I think for a long time, especially people from more Western backgrounds would look at something and find out its usefulness and discover that. But it helped Lewis and Clark stay alive in the winters of and summers of 1805 and 1806. Of course, the Latin name for the Bitterroot has Lewis's name embedded in it. But if you go back to the 1860s and before that, this valley where I live, in the Missoula Valley, was once this big prairie full of bitterroot flowers, and people would dig up the roots and the bulbs and grind them all together, and then add something to kind of get rid of that kind of interesting taste, you might say. And that was a major source of sustenance for these people who lived here before us, and it still is. So to me, it's so cool that you can take something like the bitterroot flower, connected to eons of Native American habitation and enjoyment and reverence for this area, with the fact that it kept Mr. Lewis alive as well, plus half his. Whenever I see that flower bloom, its beautiful pink colors in July and June, it just reminds me of just the deep connection we all have to this landscape.
Yes, and I'm really encouraged by the fact that more and more people are beginning to recognize that deep connection and to honor it, and to recognize that we have a real responsibility to encouraging and living within the system, not trying to control the systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we're paying attention to, we can see how in nature, sometimes change can be kind of incremental and gradual and familiar. For example, we think about how the ospreys come back, and most years, more often than not, they mate, they successfully have chicks, they hatch, they fledge, they fly, versus sometimes things happen all at once, like the lightning strike in early May at Dunroven, and how much upheaval that is triggered, plus pivoting, readjusting, figuring out other ways of doing things, staying connected with everybody here.
Yes, it's just a marvelous world. I mean, I get great joy from all of those events. The traumatic lightning strike is just as much a part of nature as the, welcoming of newborns in the spring, the chicks, the foals, the cows, the deer, the fawn. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful world we live in, Hobie.
And I think nature teaches us to stay on our toes, you might say.
Yes, exactly. So do you have a poem to share with us today, Hobie?
Yeah, I do. It's called Trees by Joyce Kilmer.
Oh, one of my favorites.
And I learned a little bit about Mr. Kilmer. He was born in 1886. He died in World War I in 1918. And it just blows me away that he wrote this poem way back when. I forget the date. I'm going to wait for a plane to go overhead before I start.
Yeah, Hobie's in downtown Missoula right now. Normally, Hobie comes out and we do this at Dunroven, and the lightning taking out our web camera. We can't meld sound and web camera very well right now. So soon, James is on it, and we're going to get our system back up and going very soon.
And then to give you a little bit more background, I've got 2 tables set up with an easel with the phone, so my hands can be free. But that means the cat is a prisoner in our house right now, because Ren, our cat, if she saw this contraption, which you guys probably won't be able to see unless things tumble, she would be on it and destroying it, not out of malice, but just out of curiosity. So I'm glad she's inside at the moment. And when the broadcast is done, she'll be free to roam as usual. But here is Trees by Joyce Kilmer. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree.
Oh, I've always loved that poem. It has a sweet simplicity, a recognition of all the wonderful things that trees bring to us: home for the birds, shelter, shade, looking skyward. I'm going to share a little something that happened to me this spring that has been a great source of sorrow for me regarding a tree. And I can't help but share it. I will also share it in our upcoming newsletter, but I wanted to bring it to people's attention right now. So I'll share on my screen and show you the lovely blossoms of this tree that unfortunately grew to the point where it was invading our foundation of our buildings. So I had to take it down this spring. And I've got a number of photos of it here that I wanted to show people here. I'll just kind of scroll through them here. It was a gorgeous tree. It provided beautiful shade. And in the spring, it provided these beautiful blossoms. All mason bees would congregate. You could stand under this tree and the whole thing would hum, just hum.
Mm.
And beautiful, beautiful blossoms. They were so beautiful that they would fall and create walks of snow in our patio. Here you can see that the walks are covered in white from this tree.
Mm-hmm.
One year, my niece was here and she was going to be married the following year. And she said, oh, wouldn't it be fun to have some of these petals for her wedding? So my husband saved them and took them to England to spread. So this has just been a wonderful tree, and it broke my heart to have to take it down.
Mm-hmm. And are you planting something in its place?
No, because it's too close to the buildings, and I don't want to have to go through the sorrow of cutting another tree.
I was thinking more along the lines of like some bushes that don't grow gonzo.
Yes, yes, we'll plant some rose bushes.
Okay.
Yeah. And now I have a beautiful photo that you provided, Hobie.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, it's called Flathead Summer. And this was sort of like the later days of summer, probably very early September, late August. And if you're familiar with Glacier Park in Montana, this is up what they call the North Fork of the Flathead, or the North Fork Valley. So it's north of Polbridge. And Eric and I have been camping up that way. I think we hiked to Upper Kintla Lake. And then on our day out from Polbridge heading back to Missoula, we decided to jump in the still icy cold Flathead River, North Fork. And I bet you it never gets more about than 45 degrees, but it's to me is symbolic of what is best about Montana. And that's our remaining wild places where we still have things like lynx and wolverine and mountain lions and wolves and coyotes and foxes and 2 different species of bears and everything else that provides for. And to me, it's like one of the last best places in the last best place, Montana. And whenever I see this picture, it just makes me think of dreamy days, long warm days, puffy clouds, beautiful sky, and just the sense that perhaps, at least in your mind, summer can go on forever.
So do you want to take us there in our minds?
I'll do my best. Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, just make sure that you're feeling comfortable. You're sitting down, or you're not operating heavy machinery or anything else, or driving, and that you're able to safely and enjoyably participate in this. But stretch your arms and yawn if you need to, or stand up if you need to, and move your arms and legs about a little bit, and just get really, really comfortable. And let's take a couple of deep breaths together. Just inhale first, of course, then exhale. And as you're sitting, imagine that you're here right at the edge of the North Fork of the Flathead River, or another river that really speaks to you this time of year. Imagine it's a beautiful day. It's probably about 75 degrees. There's a nice blend of clouds and sunshine. It's not too cold. It's not too hot. Maybe you're sitting on a log right by this river. But just imagine that your feet are touching the stones lining the riverbank. Maybe you're barefoot, and you can feel the cool temperature and the gradations of the rocks as you're sitting here, really looking at the river, and just closing your eyes from time to time, taking a couple more deep breaths. And just listen. Listen and feel and sense as the breeze kind of wafts past you. Maybe it caresses your arm or your leg. And it feels really gentle and soothing and relaxing, as if every worry in the world dissipates as the wind goes by you. And as you're sitting here, just imagine you can hear the different riffles in the river, small rapids here and there. You might even be able to hear a leaf or part of a bush or a tree that's being gently kind of slapped by the river as it goes by. And as you listen and carefully and intently, you might hear the call of a loon in the distance, or the murmuring of some ducks as they go down the river in search of the food they need. And overhead, you hear some slight fluttering as well. And you're trying to discern what that might be. And it's a group of birds that fly overhead. Maybe a butterfly flies right above your head, and you can feel its gentleness, its wings, its beauty, its ephemeralness going right past your head, right past your ear, maybe even whispering to you some tidings of joy and greeting the summer. And continue listening. And notice what you don't hear. No sirens, no ambulances, not a lot of airplane or helicopter traffic overhead. It's mainly the sounds of nature. And it is so quiet that you can hear your own heartbeat too. Now imagine that you're brave enough to stick your feet in the water for a few seconds and just feel how invigorating and almost shocking it is. How it kind of jolts you back alive, just like summer after a long winter, wherever you have been. Feel that water nourishing you, replenishing your heart, your mind, your outlook. Out with the winter energy and in with the summer and all that brings, all its exuberance, all its beauty, all its joy, all its spontaneity. So feel that water circulating up through you, all around you, and then back out. For we are inseparable from water and from this earth and from the sky and from this air. And now what I'd like you to do is your choice. Feel free just to look at the picture and just breathe deeply for several minutes, or keep your eyes closed and just imagine that you're at the river in that way, whatever works for you. But at the count of 3 in a few minutes, we'll come back together and just continue to breathe in the joy, the magic, the lifeblood, the power and the sustenance of this landscape here on the Flathead River. So let's breathe on our own for a while. Okay, at the count of three, let's come back together. And if you want to keep your eyes closed longer than that, feel free just to come back at a pace that works for you. 1001, 1002, 1003. And welcome back and happy summer. And here's hoping that a little wild part of the flathead remains with you on this afternoon and this beautiful day and this beautiful season.
Thank you, Hobie. I could almost feel the sunshine on my cheek as you took me there.
Good.
These gravel bars on the rivers I have so many memories of gravel bars on rivers here and in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
These beautiful places, just as you said, the shock of the cold water on your toes. There's just a deep feeling of aliveness when you're near a river. And I'm really anxious to bring our own river camera sounds back to everybody. It's happening now at a reduced level, but we're getting there. There's something about the sound of moving water and the joy of being near water.
I mean, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, which also has a river right in town. And of course, I think in much of the Midwest, the South, the Northwest and the Northeast, we kind of take it for granted. There's trees, there's water everywhere. But out West, we have these narrower corridors where they are present and they are everything. They're our lifeblood. They really are.
And highways for wildlife.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What a privilege to live on a river. It's been one of the big gifts to me in my life is to be able to live on this river and to understand it at a much more personal level. I love the fact, Hobie, that this ray of sun is keeping you in its arms behind you. It's definitely summer and it's embracing you. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing this afternoon with us.
Well, thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, everybody in the Dunrovin community. We really appreciate you, and thanks for sticking by us when times get tough, and thanks for being with us when the times are good. We're just all tight-knit family, and we love summer, and we just really appreciate you, and hope you enjoy this. Have a wonderful summer season, and Suzanne and I will see you again in the fall for sure together, hopefully with all bells and whistles and techno things working, right?
Yes, I'm surprised how well this worked, though, Hobie. People are saying that they very much enjoyed it.
Well, that's because the cat's inside.
I love the fact that you understand the cat. He's not being malicious, just curious.
Exactly. Yeah. And tell you what, when we're done today, I'll send you a picture that you're welcome to share with the community. How's that?
Yeah, that would be great. Take a picture of your contraption where you've got your cell phone. And Hobie's happy that we invited him to the 21st century, technically, with his cell phone. So, some things that happen, like the lightning strike, open up other opportunities. So, very good.
Yeah, I was a Luddite. I was a Luddite until 2 years ago. So thank you.
Yeah, well, we all love you here, Hobie. So have a safe summer and we'll see you in the fall.
I love you guys too, and take care, and all the best to the Osprey family too.
Yeah, they're doing great. And here's to a happy summer for all of us.
Okay. Happy summer, everybody. Take good care.
Bye. With that, we'll
Bye.
stop.
Are we done recording?
I have to take us off live stream. Hang on.
Okay.